The Cartoonerific podcast is sponsored by the Wonderful World of Animation Gallery, home of rare and wonderful fine animation art. Visit their website at wwagallery.com. And for our Cartoonerific listeners, you will receive a special 10% discount off any purchase if you purchase by March 25th, 2024. Just go to wwagallery.com and enter code CARTOON10 for your 10% discount. Once again, this discount is only valid until midnight, March 25th, 2024. Once again, visit wwagallery.com.
The following is a Cartoonerific Studios presentation.
It's Cartoonerific. Cartoonerific. It's Cartoonerific. The show that talks with writers, animators, and voice actors. From rough to clean, extremes to everything in between. It's Cartoonerific. Cartoonerific. It's Cartoonerific. With your host Brian Mitchell.
Welcome to the Cartoonerific Classic Animated Cartoons podcast. My name is Brian Mitchell, and I'm your host. I'm an animator, storyboard artist, director, worked in just about every category in the animation business as far as hand-drawn goes, with the exception of a background artist. But I've done a lot of things, including voices and stuff, and it's been a lot of fun. And I love this medium. I love hand-drawn animation. I love all the classic cartoons from Disney and Warner Brothers and MGM, Terrytoons, famous studios, even like the old silent animation. I love all the new animation that's coming out, even the 3D animation. But my main love is for hand-drawn animation, and I love to animate. I love to create film. And that's what Cartoonerific is all about. It's a celebration of hand-drawn animation. So we have a website. It's cartoonerific.com. We're going to have a blog on there, and there'll be different things posted on there. Some things will be posted about our guests on our show, where every week we have a different guest who'll be talking about their careers in animation, doing hand-drawn. And we're going to dabble in talking about collecting animation art. We're going to be talking about theme parks. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. So I really hope that you come back. New podcast is every Friday. So that will be posted late Thursday night. And in the future, sometime down the road, which is really what I'm looking forward to doing, as well as the podcast and the whole Cartoonerific thing, is to produce original animated cartoons for our website. So some of these things have already been produced. We're working on some others, and we're going to premiere them later this year. So stay tuned to cartoonerific.com or this podcast for more information as things start becoming available. Anyway, I want you to stay tuned. We have a terrific guest today. He's worked in animation for over 30 years. He's worked as a character designer and as an animator, and has worked for many of the major studios in Los Angeles and around the world. His name is Matt Bates, and he'll be coming up right after this message.
Cartoonerific is the place to be to celebrate hand-drawn animated cartoons. The Cartoonerific podcast features interviews with the magic makers behind your favorite animated cartoons, with episodes uploaded every Friday. Or visit the Cartoonerific blog featuring articles about classic cartoon animation. At the Cartoonerific Gallery, view original animation art and memorabilia from your favorite animated films and TV shows. The company store features exclusive swag from the Cartoonerific universe. And coming soon, brand new world premiere cartoons on the Cartoonerific channel. It's all here. Join the fun at www.cartoonerific.com. That's cartoon, ERIFIC.com. It's Cartoonerific, saving the universe one funny cartoon at a time. And now, here's your Cartoonerific host, Brian Mitchell.
Why, thank you. And we're back. And I have here a very special guest. He's a very, very talented guy. I met him years ago, worked with him at the Don Bluth Studios, which, if you're not familiar with that place, it's they produced All Dogs Go to Heaven and American Tail, Land Before Time, Rockadoodle, Troll in Central Park, Thumbelina. And before that, they did a classic, I think, The Secret of Nim. But anyway, we both worked there, and we were both animators there. But Matt went on. He did a lot of different things for different companies, including Disney and Nickelodeon and Mattel and Turner and Amblin and Deke, and basically worked at all the same places that I worked for. Here is Emmy Award-winning animator designer Matt Bates. Hi, Matt. How you doing today?
Hey, Brian. Good to be with you, buddy.
Hey, I'm glad you're here. So, basically, we're here to talk about hand-drawn animated cartoons, and I figured you'd be a good guest for us. To impart your knowledge and your experiences. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Matt, tell us a little bit about, how you got into this crazy business of animation.
Well, first of all, Brian and I go way back, man. He's a good friend of mine, and I appreciate having a chance to be on his podcast here. It's an awesome opportunity. And the fact is, you have to go back more than a half a century for me.
Same here.
The more I think about it, it's like, holy cow, man. I was 5 years old. My mother took my brothers and I to go see The Jungle Book. And, growing up, you see a lot of cartoons. You see cartoons on TV. You wake up Saturday morning, get your cereal out, and you watch cartoons. And my mom took us to go see this Disney film called The Jungle Book. And I went and saw that, and I came out of there absolutely mesmerized. I'd never seen a cartoon, if you will, that looked like that and just drawn like that. And it made me feel like so small as far as where I needed to be, just drawn the way I did. And that set it off for me. That was the starting point for me. And I just wanted to work for Disney. I wanted to work for those guys so bad. I remember telling my mom in the car, we were walking to the car, and I was just still mesmerized. And I go, Mom, someday I'm going to work for those guys. And she looked at me, she goes, that's nice, honey. Don't spill the ice cream in the car because, we just, like, what is it? Right? I was like saying something so profound to my mom. And it's like, you're 5 years old. And it's like, Mom, I'm going to be an astronaut, or whatever. But, it just, from that point on, it really triggered something in me.
That's the picture that did it for me.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So just to relate this, my father took me to see The Jungle. He worked nights. He worked for a meat packing plant. And so, he would, he would pick me up from school or whatever. I was like maybe, I'm thinking 5 when I saw it. It came out in 1967, right? It came out in 1967.
67, 66, somewhere in there. Yeah, right. That's about right. Yeah, 67, yeah.
And so he took me to see The Jungle Book in the afternoon. I think it was around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It might have been the summer. I think it was a summer movie, but I went to see it, and I was watching this movie, and I was just like, I was blown away because it was like, these guys are acting like real people, you know?
Right.
And and same as you, I'd seen Bugs Bunny cartoons and Roadrunner cartoons and Disney cartoons, you know, Snow White, Pinocchio. And I'm just watching this thing, and I'm just like, man, it looks so real, but I know it's not real. And I knew there were drawings. You know, maybe from watching the Disney TV show. So, yeah, I mean, I've heard that from a lot of people. The Wonderful World of Disney, or The Wonderful World of Color, actually, back then.
Yeah.
And The Jungle Book.
Great show, by the way.
Yeah, it was. Well, like, it exposed you to behind the scenes, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And, but The Jungle Book was I think it was a catalyst for a lot of people to join, or, you know, to want to become animators. Because I know after that, when they went around the room and they were asking these kids, you know, the teacher was asking the kids, you know, what do you want to be? And it's like, you know, the girls would be like, I want to be a ballerina, you know, and it'd be a guy, I want to be a police officer, or I want to be, you know, they're just mimicking stuff. Yeah, whatever, exactly. The president, I want to be the president of the United States, right? So you get some of that, and then they come around to me. I want to be a Walt Disney animator. And that was and that never left me. That was, so that's really interesting that
I didn't know that about you, that you saw that too, and it triggered something in you. That's interesting. I never knew that. I've known you for years, but that's the first time I heard that.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because I've heard that from other people. I've said, what was the thing for you that made you? So when I heard it from you, it was like, holy moly, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like a calling. It's a calling, you know?
Oh, yeah. Isn't it, though? I mean, it just, I mean, for me, I think that was my first impact. My first, I'd say, that was the first film, I think. I'm trying to think now. I think that's the first Disney film I had ever seen. I can't even remember watching. I may have remembered watching The Wonderful World of Disney. I remember I was 5, so when that movie came out, I was a kid, and you know, I think I remember that. But that, to me, was the first Disney film I'd ever seen.
Right, wow.
And that's why it had that kind of effect on me. When I walked out of there, and ever since then, I would read stories about Walt Disney and how to work there. You know, up until the time I was 10, I'd read stories and stuff, and it was about being a draftsman. And half the time I didn't understand what he was trying to say. He'd bring up animal locomotion. I didn't even know what that meant. But
that went over.
I would just, I just drew. And up until my first job in industry, Brian, I think I've mentioned this to you, but the first job I got in the industry, I had never drawn a cartoon from TV before, ever. I mean, I was always exercising, always practicing, drawing, animating. Anything I animated was something that I created or an animal. But it wasn't something from a cartoon until my first gig in the animation industry.
Wow. It's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So did you stay focused throughout the years? Did you get encouragement? Did, you know, finally at some point?
Yeah. You know, that's a funny thing too, Brian, because as you told your story, you know, I'm sure we had this growing up, but the older I got, you know, when you're small and you say, I'm going to be this and that, they think that's cute. That's nice, you know, right? But then when you get to be about 14 or 15 years old, it's like, I want to work for Disney. Now, seriously, now what do you want to do? It's like, but, you know, the older you get, you know, I want you to focus on something in your career or whatever. I mean, that was nice when you were 5, but hey, come on now.
Right.
Right. I got that from other people, but I never got that from my family. I never got that from my parents. My parents, and we didn't have money at all. We didn't have a lot of money at the time. We were struggling all the time. But my parents always put in us that we can be anything we wanted to be. You know, that they didn't say, well, you have to be this or that to get that. My parents just believed in whatever we wanted to do that we can do, and they encouraged us. And I think that was, to me, a blessing for me to have that in my family, where most kids, they don't have that.
Right.
But I had it in my family, and that was important to me, I think, growing up. So I didn't really listen to hearsay from other people. I stayed focused, like you talked about, my focus. I stayed focused on what I wanted to do. I was always drawing, always practicing, constantly. I mean, there were other things when I got out of high school. I did a little boxing, I think I mentioned that to you, but,
yeah.
I think I made the right career choice. When I got out of boxing, my dad had done some boxing in the service, and, he was pretty good. And, when I told him I wanted to, this was my chance to, get in the industry, I really, really buckled down and, do something with it. He encouraged that.
Right. I actually had two things going on. I was actually really good at puppetry. I was really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was really good at puppetry. And then I had entered some competition kind of on a whim, and I had to create a show in a week. And I took home like 3 second-place awards at age 11. With a week, week preparation. Yeah, I had to build puppets and stuff like that and create a show.
Cool.
Yeah, it was. And so what happened was...
were they marionettes? Or were they marionettes? What kind of puppets were they?
I had studied marionettes.
Hand puppets, or?
I was really influenced by the Muppets.
Yeah, okay.
Which I think a lot of people were, But anyway, I did this competition, and a professional, this guy Rod Young, walked up to my father. He said, "Your son's very talented." And then I think a year later, or a year and a half later, I told my father I wanted to pursue animation, and he got really upset at me because a professional is telling him your son's very talented in this, and and I want to go into this wild and wacky world of animation. So so that's what happened with me. But when my father saw that it was I was actually getting good at drawing, and I was really hell bent on doing this. Yeah, that's when he really supported it.
And he realized that this kid's he's not kidding around. He's serious.
Yeah. So I'm it seems like he came from a good family. That
and it's funny that you just brought that up, and how your story and my story kind of relate. I think it's discouragement a lot of times with young people, as far as they want to do something when they're young. They seem passionate about it, right? But there's a level of discouragement they get, and maybe come from their own family, which kind of makes them think twice about what am I doing? The older people are right. I shouldn't do this and that. You never want to discourage somebody who's passionate about something, as far as that goes. If they're passionate, you see them working toward it, though. That's the thing. You can talk about it, till the cows come home, right? But if you're not working toward that goal, then maybe you're not passionate about it. As what you just told me about your puppet making and all those puppets that you did winning awards and stuff, that you had that passion. You knew what you wanted to do, and you were passionate about it. You didn't just talk about it. You really worked toward it. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you have any teachers that were discouraging you?
You know what? That's another good question. It's funny, in high school, all through junior high and high school, I had a junior high art teacher. I just can't remember her name, but she was a good encourager. She saw, the way I drew, and she motivated me. She always encouraged me. She always had something nice to say about what I was doing, but she always told me what I was doing right and what I was doing wrong, right? Which is important for me, because I was, like I told you before, I think I was very competitive as a kid. Competitive in sports, anything that I did when we were playing board games with my family, very competitive. Very competitive. And so I took that level of competitiveness into my drawing. I had a good teacher. She always encouraged me. She always, gave me the reasons why. She didn't just say, "Oh, that's a nice drawing," and move on. She told me what she liked about it, what wasn't working. And that was the first time I heard that, and I needed to hear that, because I was always competitive as a child. And so
Right.
You know, I want to know what I'm doing right. I want to know what I'm doing wrong, you know, and if it's wrong, then I want to do it the right way. And then it took to my senior year of high school, my teacher, Harry Champus, great teacher, ex-Marine, and of all things, you know, our teacher, he did the same thing. He really showed me things about drawing that I had never learned before. And it opened up another realm of drawing to me. And I remember writing a letter when I got out of high school, just as I graduating high school. I think I was just graduating high school. I wrote a letter to Frank Thomas, one of the Night Old Men.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I don't know if I told you the story. And so I wrote him a letter saying, I want to be a Disney animator. I told my story, whatever. And I didn't hear from him. I forgot about it, right? Out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I get in the mail something from the Disney Studios. And it's a handwritten letter by Frank Thomas on his stationery.
Wow. And
it's a long letter. It's a whole page, you know, and it's just, he got my letter. He, you know, told me a little about him and that, you see, the last part of the letter I remember, he said, next time you're down here, I'd love to have you come by the studio and I'd love to, you know, meet you. And when he said that, I thought, what? Are you kidding me? Frank Thomas wants to meet me? Who am I, you know? And I was down there one day, and my family was at Disneyland Hotel, and we're just hanging around. And my dad and I got in the car, and we drove to the Disney Studios.
Oh, wow.
And,
wow.
And we met, and I met it was in the archive building. Mm-hmm. And Frank, I'm sitting there at the table, and all of a sudden, here comes Frank Thomas walking in. He's got his little cardigan sweater on. He looks like your grandpa, you know?
Yeah.
And he sat down with me. I had all my art. I took my art with me, all my drawings, you know, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, this is it. He's going to look at everything I did, and he'd say, you're hired, you know? Right. We'd love to have you. You know, you're going to take over from me.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're a kid. You think all these things. And he looked through my stuff, and he was really nice. And he pointed a couple things. Oh, this is nice. When it probably was, you know, you look like crud. And but he said a lot of nice little things and stuff. And then he handed me a flyer, and it was for a brochure actually for Cal Arts. This is in 1980, 81, and I looked at it, and my dad was smiling. And as I'm walking out, you know, I thanked him, and he walked away, and he was working on a book, The Illusion of Life, at that time with Ollie Johnson.
Right.
And, he was compiling it, actually. And I didn't know at the time, but, yeah, that's the book he's working on. And so I'm walking out the studio, Brian, and here's what I'm thinking. Now, you got to understand, I'm walking out, and I just went through high school, and I think I'm done with school, you know, and I was just, you know, thinking about going to a local community college.
Right.
And I said, school again? I'm not kidding. I looked at my dad and I said, he said, so what do you think? And I looked at him and I said, I didn't even look. I was devastated, Brian. I said, he wants me to go to school again? And that's all I could think of. And I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. I went into boxing. I did all this other stuff. I kept drawing.
Right.
But I just said, no, I'm not going to school. I'm just going to keep drawing until I get better, and then I'm going to reapply to Disney, you know. But anyway, so let's go by. Finally, I said, you know what? And I get older, I'm more mature, and I started thinking about it. And I thought, you know, Cal Arts is where I need to be. So I submitted my portfolio, and it was very hard to get into this school, and I got accepted. Had no money, took out a lot of loans and grants.
Wow. Went
there for 2 years and got my first job on Muppet Babies, and that's the beginning.
And you never looked back.
I never looked back.
Wow.
No. I just, you know, I burned those bridges, and I just kept going forward. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was the beginning right there, and I was excited just to be actually doing something in the industry, and you know, and then the next year I submitted my portfolio to Disney and got in.
Wow.
And that was it.
That's magical.
That was years ago.
that whole thing is magical.
Isn't that fun? I look back on it now, and I just think how, you know, when you're young, you know, but you know, it's a journey, you know, and whenever you accomplish anything, and this is for a lot of people to hear, and I know a lot of people that have experienced it. I'm sure you have, Brian, but it's not where you've gotten to. You look back, it's the journey.
That's right.
it's always the journey you think about most. You don't think about where you're at now, because where you're at is, years go by and you're there and you're not thinking about it, but it's the journey where you started and how far you've come and what you did and how you improve yourself, and so
right.
But that's it, and just don't quit. I mean, if you're passionate about it, folks, just don't quit on your dreams. Just be passionate about it. Passion is everything.
Yeah, I want to. There's any road to success. It's very rare that somebody is going to they're always going to, they're going to have a win every time,
Right.
There's always, you're always going to stumble somewhere. I mean, even the best went through a lot of hard time. I mean, they're famous Disney animators that, they applied to Disney multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah, Walt Disney, man. I mean, listen to the story. He's just, wow.
Well, he went bankrupt so many times, Walt Disney. And, and every time he turned around, somebody was trying to steal something from him.
Exactly. And telling his stories, he always chuckled about those things because it's the journey. He said, that's behind him. And that's why he'd chuckle at him. He said, because that's behind me.
Yeah, because he triumphed. He triumphed over evil. Yeah. Yeah.
Like in his movies, man. Good versus evil. And he would but it's just sticking to it and be passionate about what you believe in, and just don't be discouraged and just keep moving on, man. Believe in yourself, man.
Yeah. The one thing I'm going to tell you is I had a lot of people discouraging me.
Really?
Yeah. I had a art teacher that, basically, once again, she's asking everybody, well, what do you, does anybody want to go into the art field? And it's like, raise your hand. And it's like, and she goes around, well, I want to work in advertising. I want to be a Walt Disney animator, and then she goes, oh, that's not art. She said this. It's funny how these things kind of stick with you. That's not art.
Wow.
And I'm like...
She must have been one of those New York City art critics.
Long Island. I'm from Long Island, New York. So,
yeah, I know.
Yeah, so... Yeah, Long Island art critic.
That's cartoons. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, it was devastating.
Yeah.
And I was saying to her, all these people are classically trained. They all went to art school and they learned, basic anatomy and figure drawing and color and style.
At the time, Disney, and even by today's standards, but at that time, back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, Disney had the best artists in the world working in a studio.
Yeah, and if they weren't classically trained, he threw them back into school. He threw them back into school.
Yeah, they were classic. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They all came out of Chenard, and they weren't animators when they came to Disney. A lot of those guys, they were just great artists, and Walt said, you're going to be an animator, and we're going to up the ante, not the cartoons that you see on TV or in the movies. We're going to do something different, and we're going to keep pushing that envelope. And today we stand on their shoulders. Those guys didn't have archives to look at. They had it created.
Oh, no, yeah, I mean, they created the medium.
Yeah.
They created, they came up with the principles. They came up. So basically, when you're going in and you're learning, you're getting a head start.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly right. It's fun. You brought up art teacher and stuff like that. My art teachers really never discouraged me because I always kind of kept that on the back burner. I want to work for Disney someday. They really, I don't think they really understood that but I did go back. I had a chance. My senior high school art teacher, Harry Champs, I told you about him earlier.
Right.
I went back a few years later, and I think I was at Disney at the time. Mm-hmm. And I went back there just to, say hi to him. And it was during his class, and I'm listening back, and he introduced me. He goes, we have a guest here and sitting in the back is an old student of mine, Matthew Bates. He was a student here, and he always wanted to work for Disney, and now he's worked at Disneyland. and I stood up. Yeah, I worked, and I think I told her, I was joking around. I think I told everybody I ran the canoe rides and stuff. And I was just having fun with it. And nobody batted an eye. I was just having fun with it. And I don't think I told him what I really
Oh, really?
No, and then
I would have said I pick up after the horses.
Yeah, I carry the snow shovel behind the horses in Main Street.
I just follow them around, but I'm wearing the dopey outfit while I'm doing it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I had a great, but it was neat just catching up with my art teacher and just telling him face to face how much he encouraged me and how much I learned from him, and he really appreciated hearing that, and I think it's important if somebody, helps you out when you're a young person. And my first inspiration in that genre was my mom. She was an amazing painter. My mom was just an amazing. She had a painting hanging around the house when I was a little kid, and I'd see her paintings, and I'd think, wow. I mean, I thought they could be in museums, and even today, if I showed them to you, Brian, you'd really be blown away by them. My mom was a fantastic painter.
Wow.
And a watercolor. And so I always looked at my mom, and I thought, I'll never be able to do that. But my mom always made it fun for me, drawing when I was a kid, and she never, discouraged me. Parents never discouraged me, but she made it fun. And she, anything that I drew, like I said, I was very competitive. So anything that I drew, I hated. I was always pushing myself to the point where I would just get upset with everything that I drew. And my mom would always just, smile and just keep pushing me and just encouraging me, man. And it's like, I needed to hear that sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good old mom, man.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's good. It's good that you had that encouragement.
Yeah.
Because, my father encouraged me, and my mom, not so much until maybe later on, but
right.
Because she going to computers.
Yeah.
She's wonderful. But her thing was because my sister was in she went for computers, and she got a job, and she got a really well-paying job. She's, 6 or 7 years older than me. And, so she got a job in computer, and that was a coming thing. And so my mother was hip to that, and she was, going to computers. And I was like, no, I want to do this, What they did was after high school, I wanted to go right into art school. And so I was talked out of it to maybe go to community college to kind of get my thoughts together. And to me, I had I knew what I wanted to do. But I went to community college, and they had art classes over there. And once again, I had this instructor, and he was asking everybody, what do you want to do in the field? And, and I opened my mouth again and said what I wanted to be. And this guy laid into me. And I don't even remember his name. Yeah, he laid into me. He said, do you know how hard it is to get into? Not anybody can get into that. He said, they take the finest in the world. And he went on. And this is in front of a classroom. It's a...
Oh, man.
Who do you think you are? That he said, they reject people all the time. They don't, Yeah. And I came out of that with this thought that maybe this guy had been wanting to do that, and maybe somehow was, not discouraged, but maybe rejected,
Right.
And after that,
maybe. Hey, listen, just on that topic right there, I experienced that one time with it's just out of high school, right? I graduated high school. I wanted to take an art class at Sac State. That was the local university, right? Sacramento State University. And I went going there with my mom. I was sitting there in a chair and talking to a counselor, and he's looking, and I just told him, I'd someday like to work at Disney, but I wanted to take your art classes here, just to see what you have. And, and he's sitting there and he's looking at my grades from high school. And I graduated B average, but he's looking at my art grades. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, Brian, and I don't know if you know this, but I never got an A in art in high school.
Okay. Wow.
Ever. I mean, I got B's and C's.
Yeah, to me, that doesn't, to some people that might mean a lot.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of very successful people that were not A students that didn't.
Oh, yeah. But this is
they were bored. I think a lot of people were bored.
Yeah, well, when you say, like, I'm going to get into mathematics, right? And they look at your math grades in high school, and they're all B's and C's, or B's and C's, right? And they're going to say, that's not you, right?
Right.
Well, I just wanted to, just as art class, I mean, come on, other than gym, that's the class where, come on, that's an A, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just do the assignment, get an A, and, right, move on, right? Gym class or whatever. It's like, so he's looking at my grades in art, and the reason why my grades weren't great is because every semester they just kind of mush over the same thing, and I was tired of the same thing because I'd read a lot of books and stuff, and I was always drawing at home anyways. Mm-hmm. So I was always over those assignments already in my head, and I just did my own thing. Sometimes I'd just do that real quick, but do my own thing.
Right. And
that's why I never got an A. I always got B's and C's in art. And so he's looking at my grades in art, and he looks at me, he goes, well, let me tell you something. And he just crossed his hands, and my mom's sitting there next to me, and I'm like listening to him. He looks at me, and he looks at my grades in art, and he tells me, I wanted to be an opera singer. And I tried. I took all these classes. Me and my wife had a good friend of ours. She was such and such. You may know her. She's really famous. And I wanted to be an opera singer, and I fell short, and that's okay, and he's just, and the rest is just a blur to me because he was just telling me about how he failed at something, and now he's sitting behind a desk telling other people that they can't, achieve their dreams and goals. And he's supposed to be a counselor.
Right.
Sticking in my head already. I'm over that. I said, it's not going to stop me from what I want to do.
Right.
And I was that focused. And I just walked out of there.
Obviously, he either didn't have the chops or he just gave up and just didn't even try,
He quit.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't have the chop, But the thing is, you don't tell somebody who's an 18-year-old kid, he wants to be an artist and stuff, and he wants to, I'd say, what? Go for it. Do whatever you can, Go to college, get as much learning as you can, submit your portfolio, and just keep working at it. You got your whole life ahead of you. You can do it.
That's right.
That's what you tell it. That's what you tell a kid. You don't just look at an 18-year-old kid and you look at his art grades in high school and say, And so I didn't even want to go there. I said, you know what? I said, that's okay. In my head, I'm thinking, I'm out of here. I'm moving on. I'm going to do something else, but I'm going to do this, and I'm going to, And let me tell you something. I never did things out of revenge in anything. I just wanted to be successful. I just wanted to do what I needed to do to get where I wanted to be in life. And,
right.
And, so, people out there, if you're listening to this, just remember that. Don't be discouraged about anything. Stay focused, passionate, and, stick to it.
There's a guy who, he eventually became a producer and director, but he came into the business, and boy, was he green. And, but he really wanted to do this, and he found a way. He wasn't that good at the beginning. I'm not going to mention his name, but okay. He became a very, very successful producer at one of the bigger studios. And like I said, he came in, he was totally green. He was not a great draftsman, and he really just pushed himself. He pushed himself, and then all of a sudden he was a hot shot, So I think persistence is a big thing, and a really desire. Because if you really want to do something, I think you can make it happen.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And look at us.
Maybe not a fashion model, I mean.
Yeah. I don't think in my house, I don't think any one of us would be a fashion model. So.
Yeah, but it's like the case with the opera singer. I mean, there's always things around that. I mean, maybe you may not be you may not be the star opera singer, but maybe you can be a supporting singer, or maybe you can work
behind the scenes.
Because if you love it,
Yeah. If it's like there are a lot of people like that. Like you mentioned in animation, maybe they didn't make it as artists or animators, but they became big producers, and we know a few of them like that. I know a few of them like that. And,
they're very successful.
And
I think you sent me a picture of one.
I did. I sent you a picture of one, and he showed us around the studio when I was just starting Cal Arts, first year Cal Arts. We went to the studio. He was a production coordinator at the time. Yeah. And he chauffeured half of us around our freshman class, and he became a huge producer. Yeah. And great one at that.
Yeah, and
he's a great painter, by the way. Very good painter.
Yes, and very, very nice guy. He's a gentleman.
Really nice gentleman.
Yeah. Yep. So what's it? You guys can figure that out.
And then
there'll be guessing games Disney, out there.
Oh yeah,
with the 5 people who are listening to this podcast. Yeah.
Just remember, we said he was an awesome gentleman, great guy, and phenomenal person,
and an opera singer. No.
Yeah. In the shower, yes.
That was part 1 of the Matt Bates interview. We have more. Next week, we'll talk with Matt about... The Cartoonerific podcast is copyright 2024 by Cartoonerific Studios Incorporated. All rights reserved.